knots are probably the knots that I find I use the most when camping. We're going to be learning the bowline, which I use a lot for bear bags, and we're going to be learning the trucker's hitch, which I use a lot for tarps, tents, and also sometimes for lashing things down at the back of my vehicle. So get ready, get your ropes. You'll probably, if you have them, you'll want a smaller gauge rope like this, like some paracord. Will be really good for learning the trucker's hitch. You could also use it for the bowline. You could also use a larger diameter rope like this one. It's a climbing rope for the bowline. Either which for the bowline, you'll probably want something small diameter for the trucker's hitch. So get your supplies and let's get to it. This is probably my favorite knot to teach people for the purpose of doing a bear bag. If you have to hang your food because of presence of wild animals, be they squirrels, chipmunks, or larger animals like bears or mountain lions. So this is a bowline. Just want to show it to you first off before I take it apart and we start learning it. It has these two parallel ropes here, lines, and usually when you're doing a bowline, you're attaching something to a rope. This end of the rope is what would be over a tree, and this is our little bit of a tail that's here near our stuff sack, or what's going to be our bear bag. So we're going to take this apart and start from the beginning. Okay. So, like I said, you're going to have the majority of your rope over there. You're just going to be working with the end of your rope, and you'll want to thread it through whatever you're going to be using as your bear bag. It'll make it a lot easier to actually tie the knot if you do this in the process, because it will hold it from coming back and sliding back into the rest of the knot. So you'll have your tail out here, and you only need a couple of feet here for your tail. And then we're going to start working on the knot. So the first aspect of the knot that we need to do is we need to make a loop. And you can do a loop two ways. You can do a loop like this, where it comes and this is over the top, or you can do a loop like this, or as you can see the top part of the loop goes towards your bear bag and the bottom part goes towards the extension of your rope. So this is actually the way that we want it. We want this to be coming from underneath the other rope, the rope that's going to our bear bag. So especially if you're doing a knot like a bowline for a bear bag, you're going to want your knot and your bear bag to be really close together. Otherwise, you're losing some of the height that you're trying to gain through your bear bag. So if we had our knot like this way down here, we've lost a foot of height. So if we can do it as tight and close to the knot, it's going to be actually better. So we have our loop. The top of the loop goes towards the bear bag, and the bottom goes towards the extension of the rope. And this is the bunny and the tree knot, if you've ever heard of that before. We're going to imagine this is a hole for a bunny, and this is our tree, okay? And this end right here is our bunny. So the bunny, it's already down in the hole. So the bunny's going to come up from its hole. It's going to run around the tree, and then it's going to go back down in the hole. And then what you'll want to do is you'll want to pull both ends of the bunny and the tree. And you can see here, it's going to look kind of symmetrical, and so you have these two ropes going around the tree. And this makes it really easy, so it can open up like this very easy. It doesn't tighten on itself, so if you have to take a bear bag down in the morning to access your food or your toiletries or whatnot, it's usually very easy. If you use other knots like figure eights, they might tighten on themselves, and it makes it very difficult to untie them after they've had a lot of weight, which usually a bear bag, this isn't too heavy, but sometimes they can get quite heavy with your food supplies hanging in them. So we'll try that one more time. Okay, so you have your rope. Rope's going to go through whatever your bear bag is, and you can use carabiners for this as well, but any type of stuff sack usually has some sort of attachment place on them. And then you make your loop, and remember the loop, the upper part of your loop is going to go towards your bear bag, the lower part is going to go towards the extension of your rope, and then your bunny is your loose end right by your bear bag. And you'll move this as close to the bear bag as possible, and then remember, this is your hole, and this is your tree. And if you like to do them perpendicular to each other, it's a little easier to visualize. So the bunny goes up through the hole, goes around the tree, so back behind the tree, and then back through the hole, and you grab the two bunnies and the tree and tighten. And just like that. And this knot, just like this, will actually hold, and you'll be able to hang all your food and keep it safe when you're out camping. Last knot that we're going to be working on today is called the trucker's hitch. And as you can see, this might look a little complicated because it is a series of knots, but it is an extremely versatile knot. Because when you're tying knots, a lot of times you're trying to tie two things together. And so this knot would be used for tying ropes to your tarp or adjusting a tarp so that it can be spaced the right distance, the right height, distance from the trees. It might be for staking down your tent and using those ropes that are attached to the corners of your tent to the stakes and lashing it down so that it doesn't get blown up by the wind. So it's a really nice knot because everything in nature is not symmetrical. It's not at the perfect distance and the same distance on all four corners. And with this knot, we can kind of adjust the length of the rope without having to untie a knot and retie it. It kind of slides. So we're going to take this apart and dissect it and learn how to do it. Okay? So like I said, this knot would actually be really good for using with tarps. And so in the situation of a tarp, this end would be tied on to the grommet, or those little holes with the metal discs on your tarp. So you'd put a knot tying your rope to the tarp. As you can see here, this is a bowline, just like the one we just learned right here. And so that's the way I'm going to tie onto my tarp. And then I will slide my rope down, and I will find whatever it is I'm tying onto, whether I'm tying onto a stake, whether I'm tying onto a tree, and I'll wrap it around there. It won't be super tight, but it's just easier to work if you don't have to run around the tree in the middle of everything. So what I've done is I've run my rope around my tree. It's the door handle here, but all intents and purposes, it's going to be our tree in real life. Now the first thing that we're going to have to do when we're building this knot is we're going to have to make a loop in the rope. And so we are going to work with that knot that we learned really quickly when we were learning to tie our shoes, the slip knot. And so the important thing about this knot is that the rope that we're using for the slip knot is pulled from the right side. So you could pull your loop from this side, or you could pull it from this side. And it's going to be very important that we're pulling it from this side, or else it might slide in on itself when we're adjusting the knot, okay? So because my rope is folded over, goes over top this way, then I'd actually grab from underneath and grab from the top. You can practice this a couple times. You're just trying to create a slip knot, so it'll slide out. So just remember that compared to where your loop is, the rope that you want to pull through your loop is going to come on the side closest to the tree, the stake, whatnot, not the tarp, okay? So I have a little loop. You can also do, if you know a butterfly knot, you could do a butterfly knot in the same location. They're a little bit harder to take out, that's why I like a slip knot. I love knots that come out really easily, and so slip knot is perfect for that situation. So we already went around our tree, and we have our working end of our rope here in our hand, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to slide through that loop that we created. And if you do it this way, if you do it this way, it doesn't really make a difference at all. So just feed your rope, your working end through that loop, and now is the time you're going to pull tight. You're going to pull tight with your working end of your rope. And you can just crank on this. Don't crank on it so hard that you break the grommets of your tarp, but if your two sides are attached really well, you can pull a lot of tension here. And that's why it's really great for lashing things down, whether it's in the back of your truck or a tarp or whatnot. So once you have it as tight as you want it, what you're going to do is you'll pinch off your rope. So you can kind of pinch it off and look, it doesn't slide. So that'll kind of hold it. And then the way I do it is I'm going to pull, and I'm just going to do another slip knot. And so I just feed, and I don't actually pull all of the rope through. I just basically am creating a loop here once again, where I'm pulling some of the rope, a little section of rope through that. And when you learn knots and you learn the right ones, you can do really simple knots. And you know, I mean, like this was 1, 2, 3 knots that I used for this. Actually, yeah, that was just a slip knot there, slip knot here, and that was feeding that through, and then a bowline at the other end. But it's really quite a simple series of knots because, as you saw, to take it out, all we have to do, boom, 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 and we're free. So we're going to try that one more time. So remember, we'll do our slip knot here, and remember, always grab your free rope that's going to make your loop from the side closest to our working end. So we have our loop. Grab your working end, feed it through that loop, pull tight, pinch it off, and then feed a little bit through here.